Pryde's Picks is spoiler heavy and full of crude language. I swear like a sailor, and Lockheed's no better. Consider yourself warned. Hey everyone, it's September 4th, and I'm here with this week's Pryde's Picks. Now, I didn't do a Pryde's Picks last week because I was in Seattle at PAX, but I couldn't let last week go without mentioning Thanos Rising issue 5. Now, this is the culmination of everything, the conclusion of the series, and this book doesn't disappoint. I have read all the other books with y'all, and I have loved every single issue. They've all been a buy it now. If you want to know more about the purple face at the end of Avengers, and you want to know exactly what's going on behind that evil little smile, these books are the ones to pick up. Thanos issue 4 had us realizing that the lover that he's been seeing, this lady that's been elusive, is actually Death herself. Issue 5, we find out there might be a little more to her, and we see how far Thanos is willing to go for her love, and in the end, just what kind of monster he really is. I loved every issue in this book, and I encourage you, if you have been buying them issue by issue 5 is the one to get for sure. Buy it now. If you haven't, go to your comic book store the minute the trade comes out and pick it up, because I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Thanks, Marvel. Let's start this week's books with some X-Men books. Now, X-Men has started a new arc called Battle of the Atom, and this is X-Men issue 1, Battle of the Atom. So the all-new X-Men, the 5 originals, have joined the team and refused to go back to their original timeline, and now they are fighting Sentinels. They're trying to protect this one new mutant, and they're fighting Sentinels. Then they're kind of losing the big battle. Cyclops and his buddies show up to bail them out. Then young Cyclops gets his head blown off like a fucking dandelion. Like, Mama had a baby, but the head popped off. His head just flies off. And then future Cyclops just disappears. Like, bleep, gone. And everybody's shitting bricks. They get the healer guy over there. He does his magic. Young Cyclops comes back, and bleep, old Cyclops is there. Here's where this pisses me off. I feel like if you have a near-death experience, and you come back and you're like, shit, that just happened, and you're all freaked out about it, that maybe, future Cyclops is gonna be a little bit different when he bleeps back into existence. That's what I think, and I know there are so many possibilities, and between the space-time continuum and fucking shit up, like, stuff gets mixed up, and maybe he can't be different because we're in this timeline. I don't know. I just feel like there should have been some sort of ramification for what happened, and there wasn't, other than the fact that everyone's like, ooh, maybe you guys should go back home now. Big fucking surprise, Bendis. You've had fucking 15 issues of the all-new X-Men to realize they should not be here. And you've been dragging it out, having your little fun with it, doing these cute little jokes about the new X-Men and the old X-Men meeting, but this is screwing everything up. So just kick their asses to the past and get this shit over with. Issue 1 ends with future X-Men showing up into the present and being like, we've gotta talk. So now you have future X-Men, past X-Men, and present X-Men all in the same timeline. And I know that shit's gonna get real, and I know that they're gonna be like, listen, you can't know too much about your future, all Back to the Future style. But I feel like we should have seen this coming, and this is a really unnecessary story arc. I'll give it leeway. It wasn't totally terrible, and it had its comedic moments thanks to Bendis. So I would say, read it on the shelf and buy Thanos Rising. Before I throw this book away, I have to say Marvel did one awesome thing with this arc. And that is, they did something I've always wanted stories to do. I get really confused when there's big arcs in a series and you have to go to this book to find a little bit and this book to find a little bit, and I always miss part of the story. The last page has X-Men Battle of the Atom checklist, and it tells you every single book you need to read to get the complete story. So for that, I am incredibly grateful. Someone like me doesn't read, I do read a butt ton of books, but I might miss one, and then I'm completely fucking lost. So if you're gonna split up a series and put it amongst a bunch of different X books, this is the way to do it. And at the end of this issue, you will see that there are a bunch of covers from a bunch of upcoming books, and they're gorgeous. I appreciate a little extra art in here. Let's jump into All New X-Men issue 16, chapter 2 of Battle of the Atom. Now we have the future All New X-Men here, or the future X-Men, the old X-Men, and present X-Men all hanging out. bee's knees. Well, young Jean Grey decides that she doesn't like the fact that she can't read everybody's minds and it's a trap, and she fucking rabbits out of there. She's like, screw this, I'm out. And then everybody's like, where'd Jean go? And you start to find out who all the future folks are, and there are comedic moments between beasts of different versions and Bobbies of different versions as to their reactions to themselves. But overall, I wasn't too enthralled with this. I didn't learn too much. There was an oh shit moment at the end that I don't want to ruin for y'all, but let's just say the person behind the skull mask isn't who you think it is. And when you see this person, you're like, how the fuck is that possible? I guess we might be seeing a familiar face soon enough, and if so, this might change the whole verse. I'm not exactly sure. I will keep reading it, but all new X-Men, you should have kicked these assholes away already, and I'm going to say it's another read it on the shelf. Don't buy it, but this might get good. In my head, it has like an amazing way to go, but Bendis might fuck it up like everything else, so read it on the shelf. Okay, we are going to cut Marvel early and move into DC, because DC had this big epic thing going on this month, and it is Villains Month. If you look, every single one of your favorite heroes books are a 23.1 or so, and they are all crossed out hero names, like Batman crossed out to the Joker, and they're all issues 1. And what it is because of Forever Evil issue 1. Now, there have been this group called the Crime Syndicate. They showed up from an alternate universe, and they're creating this secret society of villains. I don't know how secret this society is, because it looks like it's every fucking villain in the DC verse banding together. But basically, the Crime Syndicate says, we have killed the Justice League. The world is ours. It's written all over the book. The world is ours. And now they are like recruiting all the bad guys together. And I don't know where this is going just yet. Forever Evil is a 7-issue arc, but it's trickling into the rest of the DC books right now. And you would think this is really fucking cool. The villains are going to take over, the world is their oyster, and they're going to fuck shit up. Forever Evil itself was pretty enjoyable, and it was one of the few times I've ever enjoyed a fold-out, centerfold version of a comic book, because it shows you how epic this team-up is. You got, like, the new Crime Syndicate, which look like Bizarro-esque characters of the original Justice League, and they are bringing together all these villains. And then there's this one guy, Monocle, and he's like, you guys, that looks just like Superman and Wonder Woman. They're trying to trick us. And then they fucking blow him up. And someone's like, that's not the Justice League. So it was a really cool moment. You kind of chuckled at that. This book was good, and I think with 7 issues, it has like some promise. So I would say wait for the trade right now. I wouldn't say buy it now, but you might want to read it, because it affects every other book in the verse this month. Now we're going to review a handful of books this affects. And not all these are good. So strap in, because DC, you're about to get butt fucked by me. Superman, Bizarro number 1, has Lex Luthor creating Bizarro, turning him into the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and making him a very angry giant. Piss on it. Batman Detective Comics, Poison Ivy issue 1. Poison Ivy has daddy issues, and Poison Ivy takes it out on the entire city because Batman's not there to stop her. Piss on it. Batman Dark Knight, Ventriloquist, issue 1, has Shauna the Ventriloquist having brother issues. She has twin brother problems that she's just unhappy about, and she takes it out on a bat-free world. Piss on it. Batman and Robin becomes Two-Face, issue 1. This is the only one in the series I didn't totally not like. I like this book because you have the Scarecrow coming to Two-Face and being like, listen, you gotta join this secret society, and Two-Face is like, I play by my own rules. I'm gonna flip a coin. We'll see if I join your society. And in the end, he jumps in for a bit, and then he starts, like, fucking up Gotham, and then he starts helping Gotham, and then he starts fucking up Gotham because he's flipping coins left, right, and center. So you never quite know where he stands. And you do get to see what happens when you piss off the big bosses. So for that, I really appreciated this because it's a little bit of a tie-in. What I didn't like about this book was, guys, you know when you pick up a book like a Grimm's Fairy Tale and the cover is fucking gorgeous and the inside of the book is shit and you're like, man, I wish it was all just like the cover? Two-Face cover was fucking shit. And when I looked at it, I was like, that can't be him. Sure enough, Chris Burnham, the guy whose art has ruined Batman Incorporated for me, he must have blackmail on somebody because this guy has DC sucking his dick. Why the fuck this guy has a cover and a million talented artists I know don't is beyond me. Because you look at the cover and then you're like, that's awful. I would not want to pick up this book just looking at the cover. But you open to the very first page and there's Two-Face drawn beautifully. It's not perfect, but it is like 500 times better than the shit you're getting that some 12-year-old could have spewed out of their butthole. So for this, I don't understand what DC's up to, why they don't just rage quit this guy and get a good artist, but Chris Burnham, you fucked up the cover of a really good book. Thanks a lot. Two-Face, I would say read it on the shelf. And let's wrap up this week with Batman, Joker issue 1, where the Joker decides to adopt an ape and make him his new best friend / son. Joker has ant issues where his aunt beat the crap out of him and was a total cunt to him. Piss on it. DC had the opportunity to do something really cool, to show me a world where villains can rule the city. And what they did was shit the bed. All those books are throwaway issues that have nothing to do with anything, and they don't show the entire promise that these villains could have if they took over a fucking city. DC, fuck you. Marvel, you kind of shit the bed yourself this week. I'm incredibly unhappy. I raced home from PAX, picked up my books with super anxiety in my soul, so happy to get my books back, and y'all let me down. The only book that was good was Thanos Rising from last week. That's my story, y'all. I hope you enjoyed my rage-filled issue of Pryde's Picks. Good night, everybody. Mwah.